Here goes. Good morning, welcome to Morning Outlook. This is Kim speaking on Friday the 9th of June. So before we get on and look at the markets themselves, quick recap of what we've got happening, on what's happened I should say. So some negative numbers for China overnight, minus 4.6 there on the producers price index. Really going the opposite way to a lot. The big mover yesterday was the figure which I said, well, we don't see anything on that. I don't know why that's highlighted in red anymore. Yet, who knows, eh? The unemployment figure increased to 261,000 from the 236 projected and 233 last time, and it killed the dollar. We saw, I'll show you the bond market actually, or the expectations, not the bond market at all. The Fed watch as it's referred to, and this basically shows us the potential of an increase or potential of what the interest rate is going to be at the next meeting, and beyond, depending on which one you look at. But looking at this, it's last week I think at one stage it was about 40% chance of being left alone. Now it's 77% chance of being left alone. Now we could see a massive surprise next week. We've seen surprises of the Australian and the Canadian central banks. Are we going to see a surprise next week? Well, there's one for us. Anyway, on that note, let's get back and look at today. Today we've just got the unemployment change for the non-farms effectively for the Canadian, for Canada. So we'll look at those later. Nothing else there. Now let me just check something on my. We do have some speakers out. We're just looking. 9 o'clock, 11:45. And 1 o'clock ECB speakers, two of those. Sorry, well, not 1 o'clock at all. That's it. So just 9 o'clock and 11:45 we've got speakers. So that's where we sit at the moment. Just looking through here, UK's energy profits levy to remain in place until March 2028. Okay, right. There's the thing. Right, let's move on and look at these markets, and it's looking interesting here actually because, well, I'll tell you why in a moment. So Euro US dollar, pushing back up yesterday. Euro just short of its monthly pivot here. I was just looking at what we've got on here. It's the quarterly pivot that's not showing on here. Let me just switch a quarterly pivot on. If I got this right, it will switch this to a quarterly this morning because the yearlies are not having a. We're not too close to too many yearlies. Let's just switch that around. There we go. And we're just on the underside of this quarterly pivot again. Now last time it got pretty close to it, it reacted. It's not a great deal of difference, but it's like we've got a double pivot effectively. We've got the quarterly and the monthly sitting pretty much together there. So if that confluence works its way out, let's see if we get a correction today. Looking through the market in coming down the time frames, there you go. That's the quarterly pivot sitting there. Should have just done that in the first place. There's the quarterly pivot. Finding resistance. It's got its R1 where it's sitting there as well. Weekly R1. It'll be interesting if a break of that suggests further upside. Into the next week, maybe. We'll see how positive this market really is coming into next week when we've got the Fed meeting. For today, just looking at where we are, so you can see we're tapping on the door of that quarterly pivot. Untouched below is the daily pivot. We've got a 75% plus chance of that being hit, so we just need to watch out there. Morning, Michael. Sorry, and Ian. Morning. So what do we look for on this? Well, maybe a retrace would be my preferred state. we see how it is, a retrace to the pivot, and then see if it bounces back up and runs that way. As I say, temporarily at least, it's well, very temporarily, it's in this range. It's still very much in a downward trend overall in the bigger picture, and I can't even see. Yeah, there's a bit of a crack on the underlying 4 hourly here. We've got a fractionally higher low there. Bit bitty it's been all week, so. But that data coming out yesterday seems to be the driver for now. So fickle. Okay, so the pound dollar has been pushing up. It was a bit stronger than some others, but continued there through. It's held up nearer its highs than the markets that have all been dropping down. It's hanging in there. Looking at it in the short term, well, it's again just consolidating. There'll be divergence over these highs here, so there'll be traders coming into short. Be interesting if it breaks the low there between the two highs, whether it will break that low and run all the way down back towards its pivot. If not, well, it's still quite a distance because of the movement it made up yesterday afternoon there from 1 o'clock. If not, well, it could run through its R1 and beyond. But I'm just a bit wary of these, well, very wary of the markets at the moment. For some reason, like the fact that they're largely chopping. And the yen's no different there. It's a strong day yesterday for it, but weekdays the day before. And it's we're seeing the yen losing ground against the dollar this morning at the moment, so there's the divergence that's actually broken and gone. Now, just shows you that yen's weakest of the lot by the looks of things at the moment. Yep, it's alright, I'm just looking across a couple of other markets. Aussie dollar. So the Aussie dollar, it's a bit like the pound and the euro in terms of we're back up to these highs here. Let's just run through here. With that surprising interest rate increase, it's sort of seen it push up, and well, divergences sit over the highs here, I should imagine. Let's have a look. Yep, certainly a MACD one on the slower time frame there, sitting there, however, still pushing and looking reasonably bold at the moment. Higher lows, higher highs through the time frame. Nice bounce through the Asian session there off its daily pivot. However, of course, if the other markets all start dipping and the dollar starts gaining strength, we could see this roll just as easy. But it's not that far away from its R1. R2 is not far away. It's not got a lot of meat on it, for at least for the intraday move. Maybe something for the longer term. Okay, Canadian dollar, US Canadian even. So we're still sitting close to the lows of this range that we've got here. Just come down. It's still looking relatively bearish. So very, you look at this price action here and just look at the candles. You almost got red green, red green, red green. But it is certainly drifting to the downside still there. It just means it's quite choppy as it does so, and it's sort of pulling up a half decent movement there before coming off. Didn't come off as much as the others yesterday. It's starting to move off at the moment. Didn't strengthen. I mean, the US dollar didn't lose its way so much, and of course we've got the non-farms later, or the employment data coming out for Canada. So bit of an iffy one to be trading maybe today. Get the heebie-jeebies. Morning in. New Zealand dollar. New Zealand dollar, well, it did well yesterday afternoon, but it's in this sort of range here. I was still looking for the potential it breaking down. I think there's still scope for it at some stage, but for now, can't go against what's there. I mean, we've got like this resistance level that sits around about where my cursor is at the moment. These previous highs. Goodness knows how many attempts we've had of that now. Well, we can see it diverged originally there, rolled over, came back up, came short. Came fractionally short again. Okay, it's pitched through a little bit here, and whereas last time it dropped off quite quickly on each of those, at the moment, well, it's got again another divergence, I would imagine. Yep, It's a MACD divergence sitting through there. But I don't short divergences like this. I'm more interested if they start breaking the low between the two highs in these cases. Gives me a bit more. It's a bit more conservative, but I don't lose a lot of money short trading against the market. So for now, if they start rolling over, I think there's better opportunities to play the retracements, such as the euro. But playing the upside here again, it's got opportunity to break through. The Aussies all the way back. There's the this is the daily picture with the original channel on there. Well, the Aussies already halfway through, or just beyond halfway through its channel again. Whether this breaks back in there properly, we'll see. But there are points of resistance above that you should be aware of. Monthly pivot just fractionally above there, so we can't be getting all too joyous on this, too pushy. Euro yen been a bit of an up and down, because the yen actually did better yesterday than the euro, and effectively we saw it coming off a bit there yesterday. It barely shows too much here, but there you go, it just drops a bit lower. It was doing pretty well in the morning, but with the news chopped it up, and we saw further chop. But now with the softer yen, we're seeing the euro pushing up. It's done pretty much everything I could ask it to do today. Effectively, it's hit the R1, hit the R2. Range wise, average true range must have been hit there already, so it takes further upside. It makes it a little bit less likely. So it's coming off my list today. Euro pound, well, as I said, the pound was gaining against the euro. It's been dropping off, certainly on this time frame. Let's just take the higher time frames there. So it is dropping off again. The swing side market this is, and it's certainly short side for now, pushing down there. Lower highs kicking through. Pretty much the case. It's not as nice and trendy as it was, but there's still some movement, so it's catching it in the afternoon is the key to some of these markets. Better afternoons than mornings, I say a lot lately. Euro Aussie, just looking at the hourlies here, it's not really doing too much. It's continuing its move that we saw yesterday pretty much. Perhaps we'll see the euro come off a little bit more. Euro CAD, well, the euro did half decent against the CAD yesterday. The CAD didn't really move. The euro did. Coming back to its pivot here, not so keen on this at the moment. I'd normally think about buying off the pivot potentially, but the trend is still pretty strongly down. And also look at this movement here. It's by doing what it's done here, it's given us a lower high, so the chances of the upside are less, and as I say, not so attractive. Come up the time frames. The downside is very much the key here, and it may be waiting key time frames here. This is the only time frame it's sort of managed to break through. Break below that pivot could give us a run down towards the S1. Might be a bit more interesting later. Okay, just look at the pound. Pound CAD, similar-ish picture kicking through here, so similar across the board there. Pound yen. Again, it's pushing to the upside, already done the R1, R2, almost R3. Right, the potential on this doesn't look high or good in terms of from an intraday point of view. From a swing point of view, you really want to be buying on the retrace, I would imagine. Aussie CAD, this has gone all a bit ugly with the price action we've seen lately. It's so important to keep coming back to these higher time frames. You see the trend it's in. To be fair though, on the 4 hourly it's a bit mixed, and you've got these higher lows kicking through here, struggling. Maybe a break back above these highs here is for the next sort of shove there. Short term, it's a mess. What's kicking in here, and of course again we've got news coming out later, so probably best avoided. Finally, the Aussie New Zealand dollar. It's a pair I look at quite a lot. The Aussie's been running away with it, as I said before. The target's up here somewhere from this into its monthly R3. Consolidation, Just really a patience game there, waiting for it to break again. That's really what it looks like. Bit iffy in terms of the length of this consolidation, but it does get these longer moves because of the correlation that sits between the currencies. So often they sit pretty flat, and it's where it is at the moment. So it's whether or not it can get a bit of momentum to break out and push on upwards. Okay, that's pretty much it on the currencies. Let's have a look and switch across and have a look at what gold's doing, the indices, and we will have a look at crypto. So gold then has come bigger picture here. It's still ranging, isn't it? It's not looking particularly great either way. I've just come down the time frame there, the 4-hourly time frame. It's still a rangy old market. It's a bit like the Canadian dollar, effectively, looking at some of its pairs. Big sharp sell-off there. Not looking pretty. That's gold. Oil. So oil's sliding its way down again, but it's range bound pretty much. Not an easy market to be trading at the moment. There's lots of chatter. There's some quickish movements that we've been seeing come through, but overall it's quite choppy there. There's a lot of indecision. Maybe if China really gets things rolling again, we'll see oil pushing up, but for now it's just chopping. Okay, indices, well, the CSI 300 it's almost stitched two updays together. Still bearish on this. These moves, okay, it's double bottomed here, maybe a bit of divergence off the lows here, but overall the picture's very bearish at the moment on that. The Nikkei remains very bullish and has managed to sew back another up bar there. As I said yesterday, it closed the gap there. It's gapped up and pushed back up again now. So looking still very bullish. Looking at some of the equity markets, they're very greed driven at the moment. So which means that we could, if we do see a sell-off, and I'm not suggesting for a moment to start selling these markets. I think it's crazy to do so. But if we do see a sell-off in these markets, it could be quite sudden and quite big as people panic. Nifty 50 still largely pushing to the upside. I haven't finished today's trading. But it's still a bullish market there. Aussie dollars managed to sow slight gains earlier on, but overall still for me remains bearish. Yesterday was marginally up, but it's actually, I was looking at it, I thought it had put a gain in today. It hasn't actually. It is down today, but still looking quite bearish there. Looking at the US markets, S&Ps, E-minis, still consolidating around the highs here, not really making much of the current potential reduction. Maybe there's a lot of traders that don't believe it too much and are just a bit wary of what's going on here. That's certainly not NASDAQ traders, but Dow Jones pretty much same basis. It's got a hint of bullishness coming back into it, but it's like a touch. Yesterday we saw a rally back in the the NASDAQ there, but still quite bitty around where it sits. It's again, it's a dodgy old market with the Fed meeting next week. The Fed meeting has such an effect across the board and across many equity markets. The DAX is selling off this morning for sure. Again, though, still very range bound. It's pig's ear. If I was only trading this, I wouldn't be very happy at the moment. Maybe you can be trading some short-term moves off of it, but it really is an ugly-looking thing mostly. And yeah, I'll leave it there. My comments on that. FTSE. Same. Ugly. There we go. Ugly as a junkyard dog, as they say. Looking at the crypto world, then let's just switch across into crypto world. Look at Bitcoin. Ugly. Oh, I haven't looked at it yet. Sorry, I've said ugly. So there you go. Remaining pretty ugly there, pretty consolidated. No real moves off in these markets. Ethereum pretty much the same. Litecoin was doing a bit better, but that's fallen back over the last few days, and just not doing anything. Chainlink not doing anything. Oh, failing, rolling more negatively. And my old favourite Ripple, yep, just continues to consolidate where it sits at the moment. Now, of course, all this consolidation may be quite good when we do see some action here, but largely you can just see the effect of this Fed meeting across the markets. It's not just the normal currency markets. You've got these cryptocurrencies all seeing the same consolidation and uncertainty. Equity markets, it's running right the way through. What can you do when it's like this? Probably go and sit in the garden for a while. There is some market movement in the currencies, to be fair, and we obviously saw it yesterday afternoon, but it may be that the mornings aren't as good as the afternoons at this stage. But there we go. Roll on the Fed meeting, that's what I say. Anyway, on that note, I wish you a great weekend. If you're trading these cryptos, tread carefully, because I think they just could be consolidating, and I think your time would probably be best used in the sun or in the garden. Okay, have a great one. Bye for now. That's rid of them. Morning, guys, again.